This is how the US plotted to kill Fidel Castro with an exploding cigar. A recently discovered CIA document has revealed the US government's plan to assassinate Cuban leader Fidel Castro with an exploding cigar. The plan, called Operation Mongoose, was uncovered and reported by the Associated Press, AP. The Associated Press notes that the CIA planned to use an exploding cigar as one of many ways to assassinate Castro, others including exploding seashells and poisoned pills. The cigar scheme was ultimately never executed because the CIA's contacts in Cuba did not provide them with the explosive device they sought. The history of Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro was born on August 13, 1926, in Baran, Cuba, near the city of Holguin, Cuba. He attended Catholic schools as a child and later studied law at the University of Havana. After graduating, he became a political activist and led the 26th of July movement, which overthrew Cuban dictator Fulgencio Batista in 1959. As Cuba's prime minister and later president, Castro enacted socialist reforms and allied himself with the Soviet Union. This led to strained relations with the United States, which culminated in the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. In recent years, Fidel's health declined and he's succeeded by his brother Raul. But the family dynasty continues. Fidel's son Alejandro is first vice president of the councils of state and ministers. His daughter Elena Fernandez Diaz-Balart is the director of Cuba's nuclear power plant. The story of Fidel Castro can be seen through various lenses: revolutionary, communist tyrant, or savior for national independence. Whether he is admired or hated, there are few who can deny that his life has been one full of intrigue and controversy. A history of Cuban cigars. Cigars have been a part of Cuban culture for centuries. The first cigars were brought to the island by Christopher Columbus in 1492. Since then, cigars have been deeply intertwined with the history of Cuba. They became a major export during the 1800s, and even after the revolution in 1959, production continued to grow. During the golden age of Cuban cigars, 1820 to 1930, cigar production was booming. In those years, Cuba saw some of Cuba's most prestigious brands emerge: Monte Cristo, H. Upmann, Partagás, and Romeo y Julieta. The Cuban government also established one of the first tobacco factories, El Laguito, in Havana. These years are known as the Golden Era because they represent a time when cigars were not only plentiful, but also largely affordable. The process of producing high-quality cigars requires precision and skillful handling, which makes them expensive to produce on large scales. However, with many tobacco plantations on the island at this time, it allowed for more skilled rollers to make premium cigars that are still regarded as some of the best in history today. Plotting Castro's assassination. The United States has a long history of trying to kill Fidel Castro. In the 1960s, the CIA tried to poison his cigars with botulism toxin, bacteria that causes botulism poisoning. The plan was for Castro to get sick and die, but the cigars never made it to him. Another plot involved injecting him with a syringe full of poison, but that also failed. In the 1990s, Cuban exiles sent poisoned bodysuits to assassinate Castro while he gave a speech in Panama. But when they got there, he wasn't giving the speech anymore. They had missed their chance. And then, on New Year's Eve, 1999, the CIA came up with one last idea: lacing a cigar with anthrax and waiting for him to smoke it. If successful, this would have been one of the most impressive assassinations ever because it would have been disguised as something else. They were close to executing this plan when 2 days before Christmas 1999, Castro resigned from power and handed over control of Cuba to his brother Raul. America breathed a sigh of relief. They didn't want to see the country descend into chaos or be thrown into another Cold War. Fidel went on to live out his final years at home in Havana, where he died peacefully at age 90 on November 25, 2016. Funding from the U.S. Secret Service. In the early 1960s, the U.S. Secret Service was tasked with finding a way to take out Cuban dictator Fidel Castro. Out of the ideas that was floating was to rig a cigar with explosives so that when Castro lit it, he would be blown up. The plot failed because the agent who had been chosen to approach him about this got cold feet and declined. No one else in Cuba's inner circle could get close enough without being detected as an enemy by Castro himself. She also says that while some members of the CIA tried to pressure President Kennedy into authorizing the operation, Kennedy refused on moral grounds. And even if he hadn't said no, there are doubts among historians about whether or not such a plot would have succeeded. An explosion inside his head would most likely kill him immediately, but exploding cigars don't work like that. It doesn't look like you're going to kill somebody by blowing a flame down their throat, according to Thomas A. Hearn Jr., author of Secret and Sanctioned, Covert Operations in the American Presidency. They may have caused Castro temporary pain or injury, but they wouldn't have killed him. The failure of the explosive device. The cigar plot was just one of many attempts the CIA made to kill Fidel Castro. The agency also tried to poison his food and infected him with bacteria in an attempt to make him sick. Another plan involved placing a booby-trapped seashell on a beach where he liked to swim. But each time, Castro outsmarted his would-be assassins. He'd often change up his routine so that someone else could be in danger instead of him. He ordered his men to search for any potential threats before he arrived at work or left the house. And if anything seemed suspicious, he'd immediately leave for home or another location without telling anyone about it. After all these failed assassination attempts, the US realized they needed a new strategy. They started to focus more on counteracting the economic problems Cuba had been experiencing since its trade with Russia had fallen apart. They thought this might finally be enough to get rid of Castro for good. In 1961, when Kennedy became president, he authorized Operation Mongoose, an effort by American spies and exiles working together in Miami to help overthrow Cuba's communist government and replace it with a democracy more friendly to US interests, which would become one of the most famous covert ops programs in history. Don't forget to like, comment down below, and subscribe.